For the last few weeks, I have been navigating the LFM Rookie series, and in week 11 of season 15, I had 3 races at Donnington Park, which I feel potentially encapsulates the essence of rookie class racing in 2024. These races had all the highs and lows you can expect in rookie series, including a very hilarious moment that was self-inflicted in one of them. But sim racers out there, I need your help. Because in the last race, I had 2 moments where I need your honest feedback to help this newbie understand more some of the fair rules of engagement when it comes to LFM racing. So without further ado, let's jump straight into the first race and show you how all these events unfold. So let's start off with a qualifying session here, and I'm going to give you a bit of a track guide to Donnington Park, a park I've never done in any game or seen racing in real life. So coming down into turn 1 here, known as Red Gate, down into second gear, get it hard into the apex, accelerating out, and now we're going to come down the hill here. Turn 2, known as Hollywood, and then you've got a bit of a blind apex coming down into Craner Curve. Now to Old Hairpin, third gear, get it hard over to the apex. Car wants to understeer there, and then Starkey's Bridge, which references the bridge on the left there. Now heading up into turn 7 known as McLean's. This is a second gear. Car definitely wants to understeer and get away from you. It's actually really hard to get to the apex, that one. Turn 8 Cops Corner here. This is again a hidden apex. You get to second, try and get it nice and tight. I don't get it right on that lap. And then hard on the accelerator, down the back straight, into the S's, known as Fogarty S's. But you do need to be wary of track cuts, and you can get it hard out the other side and make your way down to Melbourne Hairpin, coming to the final 2 turns here. So all the way down to first gear, kind of an awkward double apex on this one. Want a nice traction out of this corner, and then you head on down to the final corner, which is again another awkward hairpin known as Goddard's. You sort of look for a late apex on this one, so you can get out in first gear, and there's a lap of Donnington Park. Now, I set here a 128.0, and in practice I was managing to get into the 27s. So that was sort of my benchmark time for these qualifying sessions. And I was finding a bit of pace on this lap, but unfortunately I take the chicane a little bit too aggressively, and we take a track cut, invalidating the lap there. So we finish off with that 128 flat, and that leaves us in P9 position. But that's alright, we're going to jump now into race 1. Unfortunately, I don't have any driver vision that I recorded from this race, but it ultimately is going to be defined by 3 key moments, some with a bit of hilarity. We make a start here, I'm down the inside, there's a bit of bumping behind, so I'm glad I didn't qualify any lower than I did. We get cleanly out of turn 1, and we're just trying to find a position in the train here as we come down the hill. Again, there's more bumping behind, so qualifying further up is definitely a benefit in these races. I found that with a few races now, the back of the top 10 isn't the worst place to be, but you're definitely not out of the danger zone. Again, a McLaren going off into the background. So it's a clean enough start, but as we come down into the second to last corner, Melbourne Hairpin, the 2 McLarens in front, they bump. The gold McLaren, he spins off into the infield. We'll make our way up into a P7 position. Now second lap, coming up to McLean's corner, we do come around to find that the red Ferrari in front is spins, hard on the brakes, trying to avoid that one, is skirmishing all over. The gold McLaren who spun earlier, he is very aggressive through the carnage there and very lucky not to take out anyone else in the process. And this is where our race really unravels. The aggressive McLaren, he gets a run on us, and I do ease off to let him back into the train, but the Ferraris behind, they're fighting really hard, they outbrake themselves, and I get collected by the torpedo, and then I'm a sitting duck on that second apex of the chicane. And we can see in the replays here, there's not much I can do about that one, coming from plenty of car lengths back, and really don't even see it. It just happens to me. And on the overhead shot, you can see they're both really on the braking limit, but they have both really outbraked themselves. And our yellow-wheeled Ferrari just cleans us out here. And I am parked right on the apex, second, third hit there. And it's safe to say that every single corner of my car
is quite damaged at this point. So we're at the back of the pack now, quite a damaged car, and not really sure how to salvage this one. But it unravels some more because a couple laps later I get a warning for a low tyre pressure and I'm gonna need to make a pit. Now this is where the hilarity starts. I've never pitted at Donnington Park, and I think it's this pit entry, which obviously it is not. Greeted with a nice orange concrete barrier. I would love to know what those cars behind thought of those tactics there. And it doesn't end there. We're on the grass. I'm desperately trying to stay out of the way of everyone here. But as we come round and trying to turn, I lose all my steering and we come onto the track. This McLaren, he collects us. And in my panic to get out of the way, I completely forget to slow for the pit lane. I launch into the pits and here I am after that first pit stop, coming to practice it all again to serve a 30-second stop-go penalty for speeding in the pit lane. So a truly remarkable set of laps there. I come out back on the circuit behind what is the 5th place car in the race, but 2 laps behind them. There's not much more I can do to salvage this race other than go out, do some practice, try and follow these guys, and in a way I was able to, which was a really nice way to finish this race, to show some pace and ultimately set me up for the next few races that I was going to do in this evening session. So coming around to take a very lowly near last position in a truly diabolical race on my part.
So it's safe to say that race 1 was a hilarious shocker of a race for me. And unfortunately, that was in fact race 10 of my rookie graduation process, and certainly not the way I wanted to end that first stint of races on LFM. Now I'm going to do a full recap of those 10 races in another video. So for now, let's just put it behind us and dive straight into the next race of the evening.
And the second race was going to throw our second curveball of the evening. As the qualifying session goes live, we have water on the windscreen and everyone's scrambling to throw in a wet setup for this qualifying session. Now I'm not scared of the rain like I once was, having had a relatively successful first race in the rain not so long ago. So I was quite confident in fact to actually get out and try and produce a bit of a result out of this one. But as we come round to complete our second flying lap in this session, you can see that the raindrops on the screen have actually stopped and we're starting to see a bit of a dry line. As we come across the start-finish line, the wipers stop and that confirms that it's no longer raining in this session. Now I have never completed a session with a changing set of weather circumstances, so this was all going to be quite a new thing for me. And as we come round to finish this next flying lap, as a bit of a banker, 2.2 seconds up, but you can see the tyre pressures are absolutely boiling over. And with 4.5 minutes left of the session, I'm sitting P1, but I definitely need to come in and get a dry tyre on this car. There are a lot more improvements to be found in this session. So a bit of a scramble, I throw in some extra tyre pressure just with the cold wet track and we just launch ourselves in. I've no idea what sort of car I'm going to have underneath me here. We come in for another flying lap with 30 seconds left to go, and it's a bit of a banker as well, a 131.7 sitting 3rd place, but this is an improving track. My tyre pressures are still very low, but I know that this is the lap that I need to put it all together with the car that I've got. So we come down the hill here, I'm still managing to find a dry line. It's going to be crucial to stay on this dry line through this last part of the session. Half a second up after getting through the dip here. On our way back up to McLean's, getting our way over. I don't get the apex on this one, trying to carry as much speed as I can on the exit. Now braking early, getting over this curb here, trying to straighten the car up as quick as I can. This Ferrari is slowing, he does not hold me up though. Still showing that half a second up. So it's time to send it through the chicane. I know I need to make up some time here. And I get it right, fortunately, right on the limits there, and I gain another 2/10. Coming down into Melbourne hairpin now, hard on the brakes, really tucking on these 2 double apexes here, and I get out nicely, and look at that, with 0.9 seconds up. Now this McLaren here aborts his lap, but he stays on the racing line. I have to get right around him. Fortunately we don't collide, but unfortunately as well I don't have the optimum line for that last corner. But as we hit the line, I rocketed up to P1 with a 130.8. And I sit in the pit lane as the session completes, and sure enough, I keep my first pole position in LFM. Super stoked on that. And that sets us up for an interesting race, sitting off the front for my first time ever, and with a bit of a debacle. Now, I've never done a changing session race, and at the end of the qualifying session, I obviously had very cold tyres. So the decision was made to change my tyre pressures and put a bunch more PSI in them. So I've got nice green tyres for the start of this race with plenty of grip. So we're ready to launch, green light, down to the first corner. Don't outbrake myself. Car on the outside there, but a good exit, and we've maintained our lead through turn 1. Now, coming down the hill here, again, we've had a changing session, so this track is not the same as it was in qualifying. I'm pioneering this one, and everyone is following me. A bit of nerves here, for sure. Fortunately, I get it nice and clean. We come on up to McLean's again for the first time. Outbrake myself a little bit there, taking a mental note of that one. But I do get turn 8 quite nicely, and give myself a little bit of a buffer down the straight for the first time. So we're going to pioneer the chicane now for the first time. Unfortunately, I don't quite get it right. A little bit of oversteer through the first part. The McLaren, he gets it much better, and I'm immediately having to go defensive down into the Melbourne hairpin. Now, it is definitely worth defending this one. Leading a race, I've got nothing to lose by defending and everything to gain, so I'm nice and aggressive on the defense, and we managed to hold this one. And when you are leading a race, you do want it to be relatively uneventful, and for the next few laps, that's exactly what happens. I do manage to find a nice little rhythm, get into a good little groove, and that just gives me a little bit more space behind and adds to the comfort levels I have being out in front. Now, fortunately for me, those McLarens battling does end up with a bit of a contact there, which opens the gap even further to those two guys behind. And for the next 10 minutes or so, it's a pretty uneventful race. However, I was in a developing situation with my tyre pressures. My decision to put more PSI in these tyres to get them warm has backfired significantly. And the lesson learned here is that you need to trust the session conditions and the track temperatures at the start of each of these sessions. There was no follow over for the damp track going into this race, regardless of the greasy conditions it referred to. And as a result, with 13 minutes left to go, I'm 28 PSI in these tyres. They are boiling, and the car is definitely a bit loose. However, I've found a good groove in this sort of slippery car condition. I'm able to punch out kind of 128.6, 128.7, 128.8 style laps, and lap after lap, that's exactly what happens. It's meaning that I get to hold on to that first place despite the McLaren behind putting some pressure on, but he's not really able to get close because I'm able to stay consistent through all the key parts of the circuit. However, with 6 minutes left to go on lap number 13, doesn't quite completely go my way on this one. We get down to Melbourne hairpin, and I get out of this corner okay. The McLaren had a good run through the chicane, so he's starting to put a bit more pressure on me than he has a few laps prior. And coming down into Goddard's, we get it a little bit long here. Running wide, the McLaren gets a tiny little sniff up the inside, and we're having to be quite cautious now as we go into the start of this next lap. Throwing it into turn 1, the McLaren makes a really assertive move down the inside, and all of a sudden we are side by side as we go down the hill here. A bit worried about this next corner, but we both give ourselves lots of space, and he definitely comes through to take the lead off me, which is a bit of a shame. But looking at the move here, it was a strong move. In the end, I did see him coming. I had to move a little bit to avoid contact, but he's not running wide. He stays tight to the apex, and I personally think it was a good move from the McLaren. He had a sniff, I didn't cover it hard enough, and he was able to get up the inside. Same down the hill here, lots of space, lots of respect given, and this was a nice battle considering rookie class has thrown me some interesting results with car-to-car contact recently. So it was a nice refreshing moment, even if it did mean I lost the lead. Now I have a go through the chicane at the end of that lap to see if I can't get back on terms, but I pick up my second track warning at the chicane, and ultimately I don't have enough to fight with. We keep it together, finish the race in a P2 position. I'm happy but a little bit disappointed there to not come away with a win, but positive signs after what was a truly disastrous first race at Donnington Park. On to the next one.
So after the shocker of race 1, race 2 was truly a bit of a success. Now I am kicking myself for the tyre pressure fumble, and I'm certainly going to need to find a really good solution to prevent this sort of issue in the future. But getting my first pole in tricky conditions was a very proud moment for me, and I was certainly pumped on that. So with a lot more confidence, we dive into race number 3. And like I said in the beginning, this is the race that I need your help analysing some of the moments here. Let's jump into qualifying.
So the last race of my evening session here has thrown us our third curveball, our third set of weather situations. A night race here at Donnington Park, and it's safe to say that Donnington Park is a slightly different beast in the nighttime conditions. We're starting our qualifying lap off here, we're getting up into Copse Corner here, and here we are seeing this McLaren. He's facing the wrong way, bit of an avoidance, which upset my lap obviously on that one. So as we move ourselves now into our fastest lap of the qualifying session, I'm going to point out a couple of zones in Donnington Park which are relatively tricky in the dark. Coming out of turn 1 here again, the downhill run is definitely a tricky spot in this nighttime condition. Turn 3 here has a late reveal of the apex, which is later with the lack of daylight. Same with turn 4, I missed the apex there, run wide, losing a bunch of time. And even as we come up the hill here, this next braking zone, it's more of a feel than it is a vision in the night conditions. So not too bad there. And again, another corner in turn 8, which is a late reveal. And so you actually find yourself driving on feel more than vision in this night session. It worked out quite well that my previous race was by myself, more or less, and I was able to focus on that consistency. And I was certainly hoping that was going to pay off here. We get through the chicane okay, very close to a track cut here, but it's this corner which was really messing me up. You'll see here in the slow-mo, there's this line across the track, and it draws you in as a braking marker. And this is the result. I sail past my brake markers, completely missing the apexes at Melbourne Hairpin, and losing all the time I've gained in the lap till then. We get ourselves down to Goddard's, and fortunately we do get this corner right compared to the previous lap. Get out there nice and well, make up a bunch of time, and that brings us down to a 1:28.45 in the session, but definitely away from a good lap. However, it's good enough for P5 in this one. I'm sort of kicking myself because I threw away half a second, so there was a good chance of a second pole position in 2 races. Nonetheless, we find ourselves in the night race, final race of the evening. Green light. Go, go, go. I'm on the inside once more. That's been working out quite well for me the last few. Tuck it down tight to the apex. And I managed to, again, another clean start. 3 first lap, turn 1 clean starts in a row at Donnington. A little bit of a gap in front, a little bit of a gap behind. And we can find ourselves in P4. The McLaren up front, he goes wide. Not able to capitalise on that one at all. And a McLaren behind that's getting nice and close in the action here as well. So it's a nice clean start to this race. Finding our way up here, turn 7, now getting up to turn 8. Really hoping to make sure I get the apex on this one. But unfortunately at this moment I get a really big slide on cold tyres. That's going to allow the McLaren to have a nice run on us. He gets by up the inside, ease off the throttle. The Ferrari has what I think is a bit of a look up the inside. That spooks me. I jump over the curb there. You can see in the replay he's not really close, but in the mirrors he sort of was there. He gets a run up the outside. I'm going to have to defend on this one. And this silly shadow on the track draws me in once again. So I go long of the apex. Ferrari, he cuts underneath. He's again on the outside for the next turn. So I'm hoping to be a bit better on my brakes coming into Goddard's here, which certainly happens. The Ferrari goes really long, and in fact he loses 2 positions to cars behind as well. So a messy lap 1. We find ourselves still in P4 after that. Lap number 2, I again don't get the track right here. I get myself my first track cut. And then at the start of lap 3, I find my next sort of issue with Donnington Park at night. And that is the smoke screens or the dirt screens that these leaders are pushing up here. It's quite normal to sort of be able to get over some of the track limits on this track to find a bit of extra time, but it was actually really surprising, like for example out of turn 4 here, how much dirt gets kicked up and how hard it is to see at that point. So certainly having to kind of learn to deal with that on the fly a bit. Come through to finish lap 3. And as we make our way into turn 1 on lap 4, I miss my braking marker again. I'm really struggling to find the same groove I had on this track at night as I did during the day. That allows the white Ferrari to get down the inside there, and then a really quality move actually. This McLaren, he sneaks up the inside, but fortunately no contact, which is the main thing I'm trying to do. We drop back to P6, and I'm just desperate now to find a groove and to get back into the sort of rhythm that I had in the prior race. Again, dealing with those dirt screens in the middle and the exit of turn 7. And turn number 8, get it across the apex here, and I have another little slide, little wobble coming out onto the straight. Really struggling to get the power down out of that turn for some reason in this race. We dial the traction control up 1. And then here's the moment that I need your help with, team. Coming into the chicane, I get collected, and I was not expecting it at all. A bit frustrated by this one, and we're going to have to look back at some replays because I really need to know if there's something more I could have done here. Now that Ferrari that's gone through, that's not the car that took me out, but the car that did is the red Ferrari that had that little look on the first lap in the chicane. So let's jump to the replay and have a good look at this one for me. Let me know in the comments. He's quite a long way back, I feel, at this point, and he does chuck it in. He gets along the back quarter there. However, it's at a speed difference. I personally am not sure if I had given him room here, whether he'd be able to have given me the same room at the other side of the chicane to make it clean. His onboard here, you can see he's a few car lengths back and in right deep, hard in the braking zone when he enters up beside there. There's not really much more I can do when I'm that committed in the braking zone. The overhead as well, there's a bit of a half spin from both. And at the end of the day, I feel like I'm a bit of an innocent party here and that he's paid a high price for the move. So let us know, comments guys, what do you think about that one? And there's also one more case I need you to have a look at in a moment as well, so stick with me here. A few laps on now, I'm following number 19, Red Ferrari here, and he's pretty good across the lap, but I am much better in the final sector. So I'm definitely all over the back of him for most of the stint here. And with the P6 position now 10 seconds up the road, my main goal for this next part of the race is to get a nice move done on the Ferrari here, get one more position, and then see if we can't pull away a little bit. Not really sure if I'll see anyone else in this race if I get by. As you can see, he's pretty good down the hill here, and it's really that last sector for me which is the strongest part. I don't quite get turn 4 right in this lap, so it's given him a bit of a breathing room. So as we come down the straight here once more, I'm on a good lap and I get through the chicane here pretty well. I'm on those 2 track limit warnings, so I am having to be a little careful, but I'm still getting some decent exits. I make a good gain on him down into Melbourne hairpin. I've worked out that braking marker now, having made the mistake a few times. And as we come into the final corner, I'm really committed to try and getting a pass done here. I throw it up hard up the inside, hard on the brakes. We make a pretty solid contact, front wheel to front wheel. And again, I'm going to throw the replays up here, because I want to know if this was a bit too aggressive. This is the corner where you sort of take a late apex naturally, but he's left the door a little bit open, having been the closest I'd been to him for a few laps. In a way, I feel like it's the same move that the McLaren pulled on me for the lead of the previous race, and that I had to give a little bit of space at the corner apex to avoid contact. I'm also pretty convinced that if he'd given me the space, I would have been able to give him the space on the corner exit. I wasn't going to be sailing completely past and running super wide on the corner. So let me know in the comments, do you think that was too aggressive? Do you think that I should have given more room or shouldn't have tried to go for that move to start with? I'm really keen as a newbie in the rookie class to just know where the limits are, because certainly as I move up the grades, I don't want to be ruining people's races with bad maneuvers. So it's just a bit of a personal race now, and see what we can achieve in the last few minutes. As we come by to complete lap number 12, I finally get that elusive 1 minute 27 second lap time that I've been chasing all evening and qualifying in the race, so that felt pretty good. And we just push on here for the final laps, gaining a little bit of time on that car in front, so sort of proving where I more or less should have finished in this race. I feel kind of that top 5 position. And as we come around, final few corners here, again we got down to 5 seconds to the car in front, so it was a good little gain there. And it was just nice to, despite the spin, still finish in a P7, but a nice way nonetheless to finish out the evening at Donnington Park.
So there we have it, 3 of the most interesting races I've had so far in LFM, with every version of fortune you can think of. Let me know in the comments, is this what you think rookie class racing should be like in 2024? And I'm really excited to hear your feedback in the comment section on those moments in the last race. Thank you so much everyone for coming along and viewing this video. I appreciate every single one of you. And if you want to see more of my LFM journey as I now proceed to try and get my safety rating up to get out of Rookie Series entirely, then please hit the subscribe button, leave a like on this one. Race hard everyone, stay positive, and we'll see you all super soon in another video. Cheers.